Have you ever wondered why two people can give almost the exact same pitch, same product, same price, and one gets a yes while the other gets a no? It's a super frustrating situation, right? Well, the answer isn't some big mystery. Turns out there's a science to it, and extensive research has actually pinpointed the key differences that separate a winning presentation from a losing one. And that's exactly what we're going to break down.
So here's the game plan. We'll start with that core winning difference. Then we'll get into the 3 pillars of any persuasive message and how to really connect with your audience. After that, we'll look at the top 3 mistakes people make, a blueprint to make sure you avoid them, and finally, how to turn all this great theory into actual practice.
All right, so let's get right to the heart of it. What is that one crucial thing that makes all the difference in the world?
This is the exact question that kicked off a massive research project. Because it's not about who has the better product on paper. It's about who communicates more effectively, more persuasively in those key moments. The difference is a science, and we're about to unpack it. And look, the insights we're covering today aren't just someone's opinion. They come from a formal academic research project with San Diego State University. This was all designed to get a real cumulative perspective on how to craft a message that actually works. And the study was incredibly thorough. We're talking about a multi-year effort that surveyed 5,000 sales professionals. And this wasn't just one demographic. They covered everyone from the silent generation all the way to Gen Z, selling everything you can imagine. And what the researchers got was this just staggering admission. They asked, hey, in the last 6 months, is there something you think you did that cost you a deal? And an incredible 94% of these pros said yes. That's some serious honesty, and it's what allowed the team to figure out the most common ways people trip up.
Okay, so let's move on to the 3 pillars of persuasion. This is basically the foundation of every single message. The research showed that when persuasion fails, it usually falls apart in one of these 3 key areas.
The first pillar is what's called the house of case. You can think of this as the skeleton of your presentation. It's the logical flow of your argument, the data and evidence you use to back it up, and, this is a big one, how you actually ask for the business at the end. Then you have the second pillar, the house of creativity. This is what brings that skeleton to life. It's your storytelling, the personal anecdotes, a little bit of humor, the visuals, all the things that hook an audience on an emotional level and make your point stick. And the final pillar is the house of delivery. This isn't about what you say, it's all about how you say it. We're talking about your eye contact, your body language, your tone of voice, and just the energy you give off. You can have the best case in the world, but if the delivery is flat, it's all for nothing. All right, next up, connecting with your audience through the 3 channels of influence. So building your message with those 3 pillars is one half of the battle, but making sure your audience truly hears it, that's the other half. And for that, we turn to a framework that's literally thousands of years old. Aristotle's rhetorical triangle shows us there are 3 main channels people listen through. First, there's logos. That's the appeal to logic. This is for the person who needs data, facts, and ROI. Then there's pathos, which appeals to the heart through stories and emotion. And finally, ethos, which is all about credibility. The ethos listener wants to know you have the experience and authority to be trusted. The key is, we all have a dominant lens we listen through. And this is where so many people make a mistake. We tend to present using our own dominant style. So a logos-driven person just drowns everyone in data. A pathos person tells story after story. But to really connect with everyone in the room, the best presenters build a deliberate, lovely balance of all 3 appeals into their message.
So, knowing the frameworks is step 1. Now let's look at where things usually go wrong. We're going to dive into the top 3 self-confessed mistakes that cause people to lose a deal.
According to those 5,000 professionals, these are the big 3. Number 1, straight up failing to close. Number 2, being way too informative instead of persuasive. And number 3, a total classic, just winging it.
Let's tackle that first one. The most common way people fail to close is by ending with something weak, like, so, do you have any questions? That's not a close. That's just an invitation for more doubt. A clean, elegant, and really effective close is a direct call to action, as simple as asking, would you like to move forward? So why don't people just ask for the business? Well, the overwhelming response from the research was this fear of being seen as a hard sell. But like we just saw, a good close doesn't have to be aggressive at all. It can just be a simple, logical next step. The second huge mistake is being overly informative. This is a classic trap for experts who just have so much information in their heads. Instead of tailoring the message down to what the audience actually needs to hear to make a decision, they just dump everything they know. It just overwhelms people instead of persuading them. So how do you avoid these mistakes? Well, there's a really powerful framework called Monroe's Motivated Sequence that helps you structure your entire message logically, and it guides the listener from just being curious to actually making a commitment. It's this simple 5-step process that makes sure you build a compelling case. First, you grab their attention.
Then you establish the need. You answer the question, why should I care? Step 3 is satisfaction, where you explain what you do. Step 4 is visualization, where you help them picture a better future with your solution. And finally, you end with a very clear call to action. And that brings us to our final section, from knowing to doing. Because look, understanding these frameworks, the 3 pillars, the 3 appeals, Monroe's sequence, that's fantastic. But the final piece of this puzzle is turning that knowledge into consistent practice.
So the most important thing here is self-awareness. Just take a second and think, what's your natural go-to communication style? Are you the data-heavy logos presenter, the heartfelt pathos storyteller, or the authority-focused ethos expert? Just knowing your tendency is the first step to creating a more balanced approach.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. The gap between winning and losing, it's not a knowledge gap, it's an execution gap. It's all about taking what you know and actually applying it consistently in the moments that matter. The only question left is, how are you going to execute?